Welcome to Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com for this Memorial Day, Monday, May 27th, 2024. Sports Bash is brought to you by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, by Falcone Law Firm. If you need to speak to an attorney, call them at 631-607-4LAW. That's 631-607-4529. By the Marty Lyons Foundation, the official charity of Sports Bash Media. Visit their website at martylyonsfoundation.org. And by Collaborate Studios, a content marketing production facility. Call them at 631-451-1039. Good morning, everyone. I'm Peter Schwartz, joined by Vinny Tickets. In a few moments, we'll be joined by New York Post columnist Mark Cannizzaro. But first, on this Memorial Day, good morning, Vinny. You got the barbecue all ready to go for later on today?
Absolutely. Beautiful weekend. And very important, Peter, on the Memorial Day weekend, I do want to just stress that we want to thank all of our veterans that have served for this country, all the veterans that sacrificed their life for our country, and also all of the military personnel that make this country what it is today and keeps us a safe, happy, and healthy America. So thank you very much, and I want to say God bless America.
Absolutely. I echo those sentiments, and also everybody please be safe today with whatever you're doing, fireworks, all that stuff, and driving and getting from place to place. It is time for the Sports Bash Flash, brought to you by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, where every customer is considered family. The Embassy Diner is located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Mention Sports Bash and get a free dessert with your meal. And with the update today on this Memorial Day is WizKid Vinny.
Thanks, Peter. In the NHL Eastern Conference Finals, the Rangers will be in Sunrise Tuesday night for Game 4 against the Florida Panthers. Puck drop at 8 p.m. on ESPN. In the NBA Western Conference Finals, the Minnesota Timberwolves and Dallas Mavericks are getting ready for Game 4 in Dallas at 8:30 on TNT. In the MLB, the Yankees are off tonight. Will begin their 3-game road series against the Los Angeles Angels tomorrow at 9:38. And finally, in Queens, the Mets are set to play Game 1 of their series against the Los Angeles Dodgers at 4:10 this afternoon.
Awesome, Vinny. Thank you so much. On this Memorial Day, we're in the middle of baseball season, the hockey and basketball playoffs, but of course, it is never too early to think about the National Football League. And on the line with us is a great friend of mine. Used to spend many, many days and nights in the press rooms at Hofstra and out in Florham Park covering the Jets, and now he's a columnist for the New York Post covering both the Jets, the Giants, and also the world of golf, and he is Mark Cannizzaro. Mark, it's Peter and Vinny. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Peter. How you doing?
Doing great. Again, thanks for giving us a few minutes on this Memorial Day. You're around the Jets and the Giants a lot now, and it's been a busy offseason for both of them. We'll start with the Giants first because they obviously have the quarterback issue going forward, whether it's going to be Daniel Jones. So we don't think it's going to be a long-term thing. They did not draft the quarterback in the first round this year. When you look at what the Giants have done here in the offseason, kind of give me your thumbnail sketch on what Big Blue is all about heading into 2024.
Well, Peter, you're right. The quarterback, everything revolves around the quarterback, and I think it's going to be Daniel Jones. He's been practicing full at the OTAs, which is a good sign. There was thoughts with his ACL injury, months ago, whether he was going to be ready for training camp and all that kind of thing. It looks like he'll be ready to go for training camp and the season, and that's a big positive. Obviously, that they've needed to fix themselves up, with their skill position. At receiver, obviously, they drafted Neighbors. It's going to be fascinating to see how quickly he can develop. Obviously now the Giants are going to be a team without Saquon Barkley, and that I get it. They didn't win with Barkley, but he also was their most productive offensive player, and how is that going to manifest itself? In terms of his carries, his production, and how they sort that out. Obviously, they have to get some new personnel in. I happen to be a huge Saquon fan. I was hoping, they would be able to keep him, but I get it.
Do you think they made a legitimate attempt at making that happen, or they were the new regime and Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, were they committed to him not being a part of the Giants going forward?
I wouldn't say they were committed to him not being a part of it, Peter, but clearly there was not an emphasis to keep him financially for what he wanted. As I'm sure you've spoken about on your show, the running back position is certainly been devalued in the last 5, 6 or 7 years now, and teams think they can just make do with whomever they plug and play in there. So, and the other thing, and then this is nothing against Saquon at all, but I can't remember where there was a kind of a semi-famous coaches or managers quote. We lost with that player. We lost with that player. We can lose without that player, kind of thing. Is they didn't win with Saquon.
Wasn't that an old Brooklyn Dodgers
I can't remember who that was. Yeah.
I think it might have been an old Brooklyn Dodgers saying from Branch Rickey. Maybe it was. I think back in the day.
I think you're right. I think it was definitely an old school saying back in the day, and it does resonate. And that's not to say that Saquon's the reason the Giants were losing. The Giants were losing because their offensive line stunk and their quarterback play hasn't been good. But last year, there was just a confluence. Listen, the offensive line has been bad for a while there, but the health at the quarterback position really was what doomed the Giants last year mostly. And I think what you have to hope for as a Giant fan is that Daniel Jones remains healthy, and because he is an athletic quarterback that I think that Brian Daboll can get some good production out of. I think we saw it 2 years ago where he did get that. The people that want to think that Daniel Jones is Josh Allen, well, that's obviously not the case. Josh is a
league of his own
level. But in all seriousness on that, I think that Daniel does possess some of the qualities that Josh has, athletic-wise. I mean, he's a very, very athletic quarterback, but and who can use his legs, which is what Josh, it's one of his superpowers, obviously. But the issue with Daniel is he can't stay on the field. So that's going to be that's going to make or break his career this year is if he could stay on the field. Because I think if he's healthy, I think Brian Daboll can I think they can win win games with Daniel. They did 2 years ago, and last year obviously it was a nightmare. You had Daniel who couldn't stay healthy, and you had a backup that couldn't stay healthy, and then you were all of a sudden you're down to Tommy Cullett, and which was a nice story.
Hey,
a nice story, but
how you doing?
Not enough to sustain, right?
On the topic of the starting quarterback, is there discussion within the team or in training camp that Drew Lock could potentially end up planting Daniel Jones as the starter, whether that's by performance or even injury this season? Is there an idea behind in the team that might be happening, or that could happen, or no?
I see Drew Lock as a veteran backup. Listen, if Jones is taking health out of it, if Jones remains healthy and he's just playing poorly, then absolutely there's a chance we'll see Drew Lock. And who's going to know what? Let's see what happens in training camp, and preseason games. Maybe Drew Lock goes out and lights it up. I don't know. I don't see that. I just see Drew Lock as a guy that they brought in. He was a veteran backup who they feel like they can depend on, and I don't see that as an open competition at all. I just don't. That's not to say that DJ looks awful this summer, and which I don't expect, and Locke looks amazing. Then listen. I mean, the one thing about Brian Daboll is he's going to play the guy that is playing best, is performing best. I mean, he's not going to. This is not a play favorite situation or anything like that. So, I expect. Maybe I'm just more of an optimist. I expect if Daniel stays healthy, then he's going to perform decently well, and they're going to be competitive.
Mark, we got about a minute and a half left or so. Obviously, I want to switch to the Jets really quick. This is a huge year. Aaron Rodgers back from the Achilles injury. It's a big year for the entire Jets organization. What's your feelings on what we're going to see from Gang Green in 2024?
I mean, I am so fascinated, Peter, to see what it's going to look like. When and if Rodgers is 100% healthy, and hopefully that will be the case, because they've got a lot of talent around him. They've got terrific skill position talent. I mean, that you know, you're a Jet fan. I mean, listen, Brees.
I don't brag about it.
Some of us have heard that, through the channels. With the skill position they have around him, and they have improved the offensive line, albeit with some veterans that you kind of hope stay healthy. But I'm looking forward to seeing Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball to Garrett Wilson, and I'm sure you are too, because I think that Garrett Wilson could be a Pro Bowler this year.
No question about it. Mark, it's always great to spend a few moments with you. Look forward to seeing you maybe at training camp this summer, and thanks again for joining us on this Memorial Day.
Thanks for having me, Peter. Have a great day.
Awesome. Mark Cannizzaro from the New York Post. Still more to come on Sports Bash. We got This Day in Sports History, a preview of Free Ticket Tuesday coming up when Sports Bash, presented by Ticketbash.com, rolls on right after this. Hi, I'm Peter Schwartz.
And I'm Vinny Tickets.
We want to take a moment to talk about our fantastic sponsor, the Embassy Diner.
Embassy Diner has been a beloved staple in the restaurant industry for over 50 years. And the great thing about it is when you walk through the door, you're not a customer, you are family. Every visit promises to be filled with warmth, love, and respect.
And here's an extra treat. If you mention Sports Bash during your visit, you enjoy a free dessert on the Embassy Diner.
Come on down to the Embassy Diner, where great food and great company are always on the menu.
Visit the Embassy Diner, located at 4280 Hempstead Turnpike in Bethpage. Welcome back to Sports Bash, presented by Ticketbash.com on this Memorial Day. Peter Schwartz along with Vinny Tickets. Welcome back to the program. Again, we thank Mark Cannizzaro from the New York Post for joining us here on the program. A long time ago when I first met Mark while covering the Jets, and I had him on one of the shows that I was doing back when I was working at ESPN, and I saw him like the next day at practice, and I said, I have to tell you something. You have a really good radio voice. Like, you should do more interviews. And he did. It actually led to him getting a chance to do some shows. It was just something about, like, when I had him on to talk, I'm like, you really have a good radio voice. And it's funny how sometimes, like, when you're a radio person, sometimes you stumble upon writing like I have. But sometimes when you're in the newspaper business, you stumble upon the electronic media. And Mark Cannizzaro was someone who obviously is well known for being a great sports writer and a columnist, but he was able to actually turn that also into getting some work, doing radio and some television too. And we thank him for his time.
Yeah, and very knowledgeable about his craft and well-spoken, like you said.
Absolutely, and he's been at this for a while. We didn't have a chance to talk golf with him. He is an avid golf fan and reporter. We'll have him on again, maybe over the summertime when there's a big tournament coming up, and we'll pick his brain about golf.
Yeah, we actually do have a big golf tournament right here on Long Island.
Yeah, is it the Open?
Yes.
U.S. Open's coming.
Yes.
Bethpage Black?
Yes, that's correct.
See, I'm not a golf guy, but
Yeah.
I'm a miniature golf.
Do you play
guy.
golf?
No, I play miniature golf.
But regular golf?
No, I've
okay.
never, ever stepped foot onto a golf course before.
Okay.
I mean, I've covered like red carpets and media availabilities at like celebrity golf tournaments, like the Marty Lyons Foundation. We'll do that again this year, but I have actually never in my life stepped foot on a golf course.
You know what the great news about that is? If I get you on the course, there will finally be somebody that's worse than me.
See, now my dream has always been to drive the golf cart. I want to talk to our friend Kenny Zor at the Marty Lyons Foundation, because we do a lot of volunteer work, and they're a big part of the show, everything that they do. And last year I had a chance, and you were there as well, to go to the dinner after the golf tournament that day. And because I don't play golf, so we just came to volunteer at the dinner. But I want to try and help out a little bit more. So my offer to Kenny Zor and Marty Lyons at the foundation, and everybody, Crystal, all the great people that work at the Marty Lyons Foundation, if you need me to drive around one of the celebrities at the golf tournament, whether it's a Mike Francesa, one of the former Jets like a Marty Lyons or a Joe Klecko, I would love to drive the golf cart. I've always wanted to do that.
Uber Pete.
See, that would be my contribution on the golf course. There's no way I would ever have the patience, the ability, or the wherewithal whatsoever to play golf. I love miniature golf. I love it to no end. but I just don't think it'll ever be something I do. Maybe you'll get me on the course. Maybe it'll happen one day. Wiz, have you ever played golf before?
Unless you count mini golf or
No.
a couple of driving places, like you just hit the ball.
Yeah.
And just go. That's the closest I've been to being on a golf course.
That didn't work out well for me. A number of years ago, I went with a couple of friends to Eisenhower Park, went to the range, and these poor two women were sitting on the bench behind the range, and I went to go and I swung, and the club came out of my hand and flew like this right over their heads back into the woods.
Man.
And I'm like, oh my God, that's it. I am never going on the golf course ever.
Peter
in my life.
retired.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Miniature golf for me. Let me get it through the windmill. Let me get it through the loop. Let me try and get it over the bridge, over the water. That's the safest thing for me to do. In any event, on this Memorial Day, it is time for This Day in Sports History. We welcome in Whiz Kid Vinny.
Thanks, Peter. And while on the topic of
Not about golf, is it?
No.
Okay.
It's about hockey. So they both have something that's sort of similar
Yeah.
in terms of holding a long instrument with a curve at the end. So I guess sure. But on this day, in 1994, while on the topic of the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Careful. Go ahead. I'm
nice.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Be
Go ahead.
nice.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Be nice.
It was the Game 7 of one of the most iconic series in sports history. And it had one of the most iconic Game 7s in sports history. And I mean sports as a whole, not just hockey, sports as a whole. That was, of course, when the Rangers defeated the crosstown rivals, the New Jersey Devils, in double overtime. You know, Matteau.
Howie Rose with the iconic call.
Funny thing, too, Stéphane Matteau, he was originally with the Blackhawks, and he was traded to the Rangers with 12 games less of the season, so this might not even happen. And let's not forget, we all know about the Game 7, but that series had 3 games in total that went to double overtime. The first one was a Devils win in Game 1, and the second one was in Game 3 when Matteau himself also scored in that goal, obviously. Also, but obviously that one gets overlooked for that one, but still.
And Stéphane Matteau, by the way, on the anniversary of that iconic goal, he has a great foundation, and they had a wonderful event in New York last week in honor of Howie Rose and the medical issue that he was going through. And he does a wonderful job with his foundation. There were a bunch of outstanding celebrities. Mike Richter was there. Adam Graves was there. Pierre Turgeon, the former Islander, who Stéphane Matteau and Pierre Turgeon grew up best of friends in Canada, played Little League Baseball together. Oh. So they had a great panel last week in New York. So, yeah, listen, that was, without that goal, there's no breaking the jinx, and the Rangers don't go on to beat Vancouver in the Stanley Cup final that year. And that I remember watching that Rangers-Devils Game 7 because the Rangers had a 1-0 lead for most of that game. I think Brian Leach had scored. I want to say it was in the second period.
He was around there.
Yeah, gave the Rangers a 1-0 lead, and the Devils just couldn't figure out a way to get one past Richter. And finally, with the goalie pulled, in the final seconds, the Devils tied the game and sent it into overtime. And I mean, now you start to think, what's going to happen? And then Matteau, on that little swoop around the net, got it past Brodeur, and the Rangers were on to the Stanley Cup final.
It's one of the most iconic series in sports history, New York history.
Yeah, I threw up.
Everyone knows how iconic. Everyone knows how iconic it is. I mean, it could be worse. I mean, was it as bad as the year prior when the Islanders lost to the Canadiens?
Well, I'm sure. Well, the Islanders. One of the games in that series, the Canadiens had 72 players on the ice, and they didn't call it, and then the Canadiens scored an overtime goal to win. So yeah, that's a sore subject also.
So, Wiz, will you go back? Obviously, I don't know if our listeners know this, but you weren't even born yet when we're talking about this. So do you go back? I know you study a lot, but will you go back and watch these games? And will you watch them multiple times?
If they have audio or even video recording of them, sure. Though sometimes for the things that I talk about, the most they have is like some old grainy footage or even just the radio call. But yeah, and sometimes I would do it. Not always, because sometimes I just need to just get it out there. But
get the facts and
get the facts.
Yeah,
and
but
everything.
I'm saying to get the visual of the game as well.
Yeah,
and you'll do that.
Yeah, but depending on the circumstance, I would watch an old game like I would watch some of the old highlights or even some of the old.
Did you hear? Did you hear, Wiz? It was grainy.
Grainy.
No, not.
You should have seen the black and white TVs that we had to watch.
I'm not referring to '94.
No, I know.
I'm referring to
older than that.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah, but I like watching old stuff. I mean, I like watching old movies on TCM. My friend, if he's watching Upton Bell, he's a friend of mine. He's in his late 80s, still sharp as a tack. We just talk about old movies all the time. He's, by the way, Burt Bell's son, who founded the Philadelphia Eagles. He's one of my friends. So shout out to you, Upton. You're a legend.
So we want to tell you about a couple of shows coming up this week. Tomorrow, Free Ticket Tuesday. We're going to give away Yankees tickets on the show. The first place Yankees.
The first place Yankees.
The first place
we
Yankees.
agree on that, right?
Yes.
We agree on the Knicks. I think it's hockey's our only conflict.
Yes. So
we have the Jets. But that's a weird one, just so you know, the Jets-Yankees. And let's talk about that dynamic at some point in the future.
Absolutely. And don't forget, Wednesday is Stump the Wiz. You're 0 for 2. You're going to try and get off the schneid. Send a DM with your question to the Sports Bash Media Facebook or Instagram page. If your question is chosen and you stump the Wiz, you will win a fabulous prize.
I mean, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
But if you get the answer right, don't we have to get him something too? Shouldn't we have a little something?
We'll have Gus give him an appetizer.
An appetizer, a cookie or something like that.
I mean,
he loved the appetizers.
I mean, hey, the Buccaneers went 0 for 26 before they won the game, so it's not that bad.
That'll do it for this edition of Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com. We're sponsored by the Embassy Diner in Bethpage, Falcone Law Firm, the Marty Lyons Foundation, Collaborate Studios. For our entire crew, I'm Peter Schwartz saying thank you for watching and listening. Have a safe and enjoyable remainder of your Memorial Day. We're back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock here on Sports Bash, presented by TicketBash.com.